Welcome back to the UFC Prospect Show. That's right. You didn't think we were going to miss it just because there's American Thanksgiving. I am James Lynch. He is James Krause. And Nick Kalikas once again joins us here on the show. Gentlemen, thank you guys for doing this because there's no Thanksgiving here in Canada. We had it last month, but a really good couple of fights coming up here, fight cards, I should say. So we're really excited about that. No UFC this weekend. So that's what today's show is going to be focused on. But before we get into that, let's talk about the promo. We talk about this all the time, everyone. If you're not signed up for BetDSI, what are you doing? Match deposit bonus. Use the code word UFC. You also get a signed autograph photo from this man here. He's a handsome guy, James Krause. Who wouldn't want one? Take advantage of that. Again, there's no other shows where you're going to get offers like this. So again, betdsi.eu. Make sure you sign up. Use the promo code UFC. You get an autograph photo of James Krause. Let us know. Take a photo as well if you've signed up. That way we're all in the loop too. And it's just a great deal right now going on with BetDSI, which is the odds book of the show that we use when it comes to the odds. So there you go. Before we get into everything going on with some of these future odds coming up here, we got to take a look at last week. James Krause on fire here. You know, remember that old NBA Jam game? We were on fire. That was James Krause last week. Both of his bets hit. He had the Pat Sabatini bet as well that cashed. Pat Sabatini doing quite well in that one. And he also, this was in hindsight, great bet as well. The over in the Yanez and Grant fight, really solid bets there as well. Krause, how'd you feel? You bounced back, and I know you're feeling pretty good about it.
Man, I'll tell you what, the 3 weeks before that were really rough for me. So like it was bad. So to get back on the board was really good. And I do feel like last week was fairly tough too. Yeah. I said that on air. You know, I feel like it was the last tough week for a while. Like I really like going forward better, but I did like those picks a lot, and I do think those boys from Philly, they're nasty and they're underrated, man. They're really good. They have a really good team. So Sabatini did exactly what I said he was going to do, what I thought he was going to do. He's just too much everywhere. You know, his wrestling's too good, his grappling's too good. He's really good, man. He's very underrated. And then the over, I can't believe the odds were where they were on the over 1.5 for Yanez and David Grant. I mean, and I'll be honest with you guys, like I liked Yanez in that fight, but I thought about throwing some plus money on David Grant. He might be one of the most underrated guys in the entire UFC. Like he is really good. And if you watch him from a couple of years ago, you would never know that it's the same guy. So for me, that was a lock. I like tripled down on it. I mean, I just, and matter of fact, not only did I bet the over, I bet going the distance too. And that was really good plus money, but I wanted to make sure, and we got that over 1.5. I felt really good about that one.
Now, I did not go as flawless as Krause did. I will mention the one where I did stub my toe a little bit, and that was the Joanne Wood fight. But to my credit, Talia Santos, when has she got a first round finish like that? I mean, that was crazy. Best performance of her career, maybe one of the worst for Joanne Wood. I know she's had some first round losses, but still the value in that fight, I thought there was definitely something there. It's not like Joanne Wood was like plus 100. She was like plus 290 or something around there. So don't regret playing that at all. Because again, 9 times out of 10, I think Joanne Wood would show up a little bit better than she did in that fight. But credit to Santos. She might be fighting for the title next. We'll see what happens there. But the one I did get, and this is something we talked about, was that Michael Kiesa and Sean Brady fight. Sean Brady ran into a little bit of trouble in that third round, but still he got it done. It goes the distance. I'm glad I played that actually, because looking back, I wouldn't have been sweating so much with Sean Brady in that third round. So
I played that
happy
too.
back cash.
I like that bet a lot. I played that too. And I think it's important to talk about, just because you lose a bet doesn't mean it's a bad bet. You know what I mean? I know Nick on his bets last week, there was a ton of line movement. And that, you have to understand that just because a bet loses doesn't mean it's a bad play. You know what I mean? Like, especially in MMA where, you know what I mean? Like, one Hail Mary can
but credit at the same time. I mean, I think there's a fine line there. Like what you're talking about, the Sabatini line, for example, right? It did end up closing towards Lutz minus 135. A lot of sharps agreed pre-fight with that line. That's why the line closed where it did. But unfortunately, it worked out exactly like you said, James Krause. You were right. The wrestling factor came into play, and all the sharp action just went away. You know, it doesn't matter. We all lost. So in hindsight, it was a bad bet because Sabatini's wrestling was too much. But the price that I ended up getting, the closing line value, was fantastic. Even the Luke Boonmi fight, she ended up getting out wrestled too. It was one of those spots that the wrestlers just got the best of us in that smaller cage too, which the value was there though. The line closed a little bit lower too. So unfortunately, the sharp action did agree with me, but it doesn't matter if you can't cash those tickets. So it was a bad weekend, but we'll bounce back. There's a lot of fights coming up in 2022. Obviously, we're going to end the year strong here coming up. There's a lot of great cards, but I think next year is a promising year because there's so much going on with the UFC.
And I think, honestly, I think that's what's the coolest thing about this show is like the diverse panel that we have. And it like us, I think our approach to how we look at these is all different. And, you know, like I'm trying to learn the line value, like you know so well, Nick, and like I'm trying to learn because me, I'm just like I think this guy's gonna win. I think he's a better fighter, and like it's like what price do I pay? But sometimes I don't always understand. Like I don't understand. Basically, it's like, am I willing to pay this for it? But there's not any like mathematical equation behind what I'm doing. I think this person's gonna win. I think they're better, and if I can get it at a good price, I like to jump on it. But I'm trying to get better at your side of things because, and that's why it's so great to watch the show is because we're getting line value with Nick. We're getting me, who I think we're gonna like win the fight, and I think James brings in a different approach from outside looking in that kind of is a sweep across the board where he's seeing a little bit of everything. So I really do think there's a ton of value in this show because of that. And man, like not only are you getting good picks, you're getting good picks at good prices. And I think that's really difficult to find because there's so many of these shows, right? But I don't think anybody is doing what we're doing as far as like good prices, and we're doing really well with it.
We certainly are. And you get an autographed James Krause photo. That's the main thing, right? That's really what it comes down to. You don't get that on any other shows. I don't see other people signing autographs. Anyways, this is all about the future, though. We wanted to talk quickly about the past. We got nothing to hide. There's a lot of fun fights coming up here. We do have odds for them. I'll start with you first, Krause, because there's actually a fight that you and I disagree on, and we'll probably talk about it close to fight time. But I wanted to start first with this Jimmy Crute and Jamal Hill fight, which let me bring up the odds here. Jimmy Crute right now, -182. The comeback on Jamal Hill, +155. Tell everyone which side you're going on here, Krause.
I'm going to go Crute. I will say this. I will put an asterisk on this. Like, this is not a play that I'm like, you know what? I forget that. Like, when I looked at this, there was two matchups that jumped out at me, and this was one of them. And I feel like there's been a few people that I've talked that I respect their opinion. Both of you guys were one of them, and then there's even one other person that liked the Jamal Hill side of things. And I like it. And the reason why I like it is because I feel like Jamal Hill is extremely tough for a round and a half. But Crute is not an easy guy to get out of there. I feel like he's kind of being disrespected a little bit because of the Anthony Smith fight. But that's not his MO. You know what I mean? His volume is a little bit low for my liking, but he's extremely durable. He's young. He can grapple really well. And I think that's where, like, if he's smart, and his team usually comes with a good approach. If he's smart, he's going to clinch up Jamal early, wear him down, get him out of the first round. And then if you can get him settled a little bit, then you can start to open up on the striking, work the wrestling. I think Jimmy's going to get him down and out grapple him, whether it be on the fence or actually getting the takedown. But I think he's going to like nullify that explosive action that Jamal Hill is. And I think he'll cruise to a decision or a late submission.
Really interesting fight there. And Nick, we'll get your thoughts in a second. I am going the other way on that one. I am going Jamal Hill, but I can see both sides of it because here's the thing with Jimmy Crute. Like, I agree with you that Anthony Smith fight, we learned absolutely nothing, right? Because it was an injury. It ended very, very early. And then he had that weird fight against Misha Serkinov. I was at that fight. It was in Vancouver. Serkinov submits him. I think 9 times out of 10 they fight. That's definitely a different outcome.
It was a Peruvian necktie. That's not like a known... You know,
you
don't know what you don't know. It's a lot harder to defend a submission that you don't know. That's a very unknown submission, you know? So, like, I can see somebody getting caught in that. It's not like the dude's getting finished a ton, though, you know?
No. And so the fight after the Misha Serkinov fight, what did he do? He finished Modestas Bukauskas very quickly. Super impressive stand-up there. So to me, this is kind of like a 50-50 fight because I think the same thing with Jamal Hill. Like, yes, he got submitted in his last fight, which, by the way, I interviewed him after that, and he's like, I didn't even feel that my arm like dislocated or broke or whatever happened. Like, he's just such a tough guy that like it didn't even click in for him. And just you see him, he's just a very like raw, real fighter. Like, I can't describe it. It's like even when I interview him, I get like kind of intimidated, right? Because he's just such an intense guy. But there's something to that. And you see him in the cage with Jamal Hill. His stand-up, he does things in the cage that you don't see a lot of light heavyweights do. He moves very fast. He's got really good knockout power, and he's one of those guys that's got no fear whatsoever. He just goes in there and you know, sort of reckless abandon. And I think the last fight, you know, it's a tough fight against Paul Craig, who's a very good submission specialist. I think if the fight stays standing, I give a slight edge to Jamal Hill. But to me, the reason I see the value on Hill is because I think this should be a pick-up. I really do. I think you don't know enough about Crute, and I don't think you know enough about Hill either, because Hill has got some good wins, but also you look on the regional scene coming into the UFC, not great opposition. So for me, I think if you can get Jamal Hill at +155, and this is why we're doing the future show, because the line could change come fight time, take advantage of that dog money at +155 for Jamal Hill. I think there's some serious value there. But Nick, you were going to chime in. Sorry.
If you believe in the Crute, I do agree with these guys. I think the line is going to drop towards Jamal Hill's favor. I really do. I don't agree with it, but I think if you like the Crute side, wait a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, for right now, at the sports books, we are seeing action coming in on Crute, though. I mean, people are laying the chalk a little bit on Crute, but again, I mean, it's far off enough that we are going to see some action. And I agree. I think it probably drops, if anything, by fight day a little bit. Now, for me, I'm not going to play spoiler because we are doing a UFC on the line for this show, for this upcoming card, for the Font Aldo card and for UFC 269. So quick plug. Check out UFC on the line only on UFC Fight Pass, and you'll get my official plays there. But let me just say this. If this fight stays standing, I do favor Jamal Hill because I think he does have a slight advantage over Crute. But Crute does have that ground edge and the wrestling edge as well, so he's going to look for those takedowns. So it's whoever can implement their game plan is going to probably win this fight, right? If it stays standing, I think, again, you got to favor Hill a little bit. Not that Crute's a fish out of water, but on the ground, I think he has a bigger advantage. So Crute being the slight favorite makes sense. But again, it's probably a dog or pass situation in most people's minds, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, really interesting fight again in the light heavyweight division, and a fight that I think the UFC is kind of trying to figure out who the better prospect is in that weight class as they're trying to make new contenders in that division. Kind of a passing the guard with Glover now winning the title, and you're seeing a lot of new faces in that weight class as well. Krause, there's another fight you liked as far as the odds and stuff. We can talk about it there. What was that fight that you were telling me about?
I like Manuel Kopp.
Yeah.
I know it's a little chalky. I think whenever I got him, he was under minus 200. His UFC record isn't good, but every fight he's been in has been extremely competitive. Against the top level of the food chain at that 25 division, and just coming off a nice knockout win over O'Day Osborne, I believe. The dude is an athlete, really good striker. When people look at him, it's like, oh, his records. What is he, 1-2 in the UFC, 1-3?
Yeah.
I don't feel like that tells the whole story. I feel like this line should be a little higher. And I really like this fight for him.
He's actually not that chalky. He's only minus 200, and I'm with you there. One of those fights, the second UFC fight, can't remember the opponent, but I just remember that was kind of. Yeah, that was I remember that was a close fight. Could have gone either way, right? I mean, the debut was disappointing, but you got to remember one thing about Kopp as well. Where did he come from? He's from Ryzen. I mean, he fought pretty solid opposition over there. And when he came to the UFC, there was a lot of expectations. Didn't really live up to that. Also, side note, he switched management. I don't know if you're aware of this. He was with First Round. Now he's with Ali. So, maybe some bad blood there as well. But it seems like he's kind of found his footing. I know he had some issues with camp as well. He was a Mike Swick guy, trained at AKA Thailand. And then when the pandemic hit, wasn't able to train there. Sounds like a lot of those fighters are able to go train there now with things opening up. I just talked to Rafael Fiziev the other day. He's telling me he's going back to Tiger Muay Thai after his fight because that's all opening up. So I'm not sure what his camp's going to look like leading into this, but just nonetheless, I think Kopp is a guy that I think still has a lot of potential. He's not that old, right? That's the thing too. So.
No, he's good, man. Listen, he's good. In the Matthias fight, I thought he won. won. And Matthias is, what is he ranked? 6, 7 now? Kopp could very well be a top 5 guy.
He hangs with all the best. Yeah, I mean, look at the level of competition since he stepped into the UFC. The UFC's not giving him any easy fights, right? I mean, they're putting him right into the fire, and he's done well. I mean, he's, again, hasn't been, in the win column, but like you said, I mean, he's had a lot of squeaker-type fights against solid competition. But let me say this. Don't sleep on Zumagulov, man. The guy's tough. He's tough. He's well-rounded. Yeah, I mean, I think he's a little bit underrated in most spots, but I agree with what you guys said.
He's good, but I think his style is too slow and plotty for a guy like Kopp. He's going to beat some good guys in that division. I just feel like Kopp is a really bad matchup for him. I think he's good. I've played him before. He's won me a lot of money before. I do, I think, but I don't think he's fast enough. I don't think he's athletic enough. I don't think he has good feet. He's too plotty for me. I just think Kopp's gonna pick at it, man. And Kopp is if you can't control range really well against Kopp, he does a good job just picking you apart at range, man. He is really good at range. And I just don't see that not happening here.
I agree. And I think there's more upside to Kopp too, as well. Like he continues to improve, where I think Zumagulov is pretty much, I mean, he's good in all areas, right? But I don't think there's a lot of upside left in his game. I think he's probably at his peak, where Kopp is not at his peak. He's going to continue to improve.
Agreed.
So I like it.
Couple more odds I just wanted to look at. And we'll talk generally here about some of these odds. I know we're kind of jumping right into the deep end here, but Dustin Poirier and Charles Oliveira, it's very rare to have the champion as the underdog, but that's the case here. Charles Oliveira plus 130, Dustin Poirier minus 152. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. I like Oliveira in that fight, and we'll preview that once that fight comes up here, but I have a feeling the line's going to get even more in the favor of Poirier come fight time because of him fighting Conor McGregor. I really feel like fans are sort of on board with that. He beat the greatest guy ever, right, in McGregor. I could see that line creeping up to almost minus 200, And I think if you like Oliveira, maybe wait a bit. I think he's still going to be a dog come fight time because he's just not getting the respect he needs. He doesn't speak English. He's not, and he had some adversity in that Chandler fight. He got in a little bit of trouble in that first round. So I say hold off a little bit on that. That's not a line I would go right now. I think a lot of people like Poirier and they, just as a person and a fighter and stuff. So I could see the line getting even higher then. So if you like Oliveira in that fight, I'd say wait till closer to fight time. But if you like Poirier, maybe bet him now because I think the line will go a little bit steeper. What do you guys think of that?
Go ahead, Nick.
I'll chime in. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Poirier automatically has that bias because of the Conor McGregor fights, right? I mean, Conor McGregor, anytime you get a win over him, your stock's going to skyrocket. So Poirier's at an all-time high right now as far as the respect from the fans and the bettors. A lot of people believe he should be the current lightweight champion, and Oliveira's just kind of holding his spot. But man, I'll tell you what, again, people probably are underestimating Oliveira a little bit. You got to be careful here because he is getting better. And talk about improvements. I mean, the toughness and the durability he ended up showing in that Chandler fight surprised me, honestly, because as we said in the past, he's had that quit. And at times you're kind of scratch your head because he's got so much potential and he had some letdown spots in the past, but that's kind of gone. I mean, I think his confidence is at an all-time high. He knows he could weather that storm, and he's so ultra dangerous offensively, man. This guy, he's developing that knockout power as well, right? So you can't just sleep on his striking either. I mean, he's known for his submission skill, and he can submit anybody. I mean, in the UFC, that's how good his submissions are, right? We all know that. But now his striking's catching up a little bit, so that's not an easy fight. And I agree with you, James Lynch. I think that this is probably going to be one of those spots where the line keeps on climbing towards Poirier, but I think we'll see some sharps take a bite on Oliveira once it kind of reaches its peak.
Yeah, should be very interesting on that line. Krause, you were going to say something?
It's a tough one for me because I do think Poirier is going to win the fight. But I also think there's a value play on Oliveira there, and I agree with everything you guys are saying. I just don't. When the going gets tough, man, if you're 23 and a half minutes into a fight, there's nobody I'd rather have on my side other than Dustin Poirier, man. You know what I mean? Like,
I get it.
And we've seen Oliveira kind of wilt under the pressure in the past, and Dustin Poirier has made a living. He's made a career off of not going away. And I know we talk about the danger factor, and I'm not saying that Oliveira can't get him out of there. Poirier is just tough to get rid of. And I think he's going to eat those shots. I think he's going to give back shots. And the difference between him and Chandler is I think Poirier he's a much better finisher than Chandler is, and he slows things down and is able to keep hitting you and keep hitting you and keep hitting you. I think whereas Chandler is looking for one big shot, Poirier is looking for 10 mid-sized shots. And I'm really big on Dustin Poirier, man. Like he is really good, and I think he's flown under the radar for a very, very long time. Now, obviously, he's getting the notoriety after the Conor series, but dude, you can't get rid of the guy. You know what I mean? Like you just can't get rid of him. And I'm not saying there's not value on Oliveira. I do think Poirier is going to win that fight. And I do agree with you guys. I think the value is going to continue to climb for Oliveira. But I'll say this, 23 and a half minutes in, if you're talking who do I want next to me, Dustin Poirier is on the top of that list.
Absolutely. One more line I wanted to go over with you guys, and then if there's any other fights you want to talk about, we can do it. This is kind of more of a free-flowing show here. Garbrandt is plus 150. The favorite in the fight is Cody Garbrandt at minus 175. I think there's some value there. Garbrandt's moving down a weight class. There's some theory of thought that, since him getting COVID and him being off and those knockout losses to Dillashaw, that maybe the Garbrandt of old is not there anymore. Now, granted, we should point out the time of recording this, the guy he last lost to was Rob Font, who's fighting Jose Aldo, who's also a favorite in his upcoming fight as well. But I do wonder, like, you see situations like this where a guy drops a weight class, he's fighting more of a mainstay fighter in there. I don't know. I could see a potential upset here. And I think at plus 150, Garbrandt, it's not like he trains at a bad camp. He's at one of the best camps in the world. I think there could be something there. What do you guys think of Garbrandt's foray into the flyweight division? Krause, we'll start with you first.
I mean, Kai is a little hittable for me. Mm-hmm. And stylistically, I think Garbrandt is a really tough matchup for him. All the things you said, the weight class, like for some reason, you know how there's some weight classes that when you jump, it's like, you see people go from 70 to 55 all the time. And it's like, it's not a big deal. People do it, whatever, because that's a big gap. So there's usually like, if they can make the move, they're probably towards that end. But for whatever reason, 35 to 25 historically, as I can remember, I can't remember a person. and I'm sure some of you guys are going to prove me wrong. I can't remember somebody off the top of my head right now that went from 35 to 25 and it was like, that was the move. You know what I mean? Like, unless it was very clear cut before, like, I don't know, Joseph Benavidez or somebody like that. You know what I mean? Like, it was very clear that person. I'm talking about somebody that has competed at 35 the majority of their career, and then was like, I think 25 is a better fit for me. I haven't seen it do well. You know what I mean? I'm not saying there's not examples.
I thought you were going to say the opposite, because I was going to say TJ Dillashaw is a classic example, moves down and gets knocked out in the very first round, right? So that's what makes me think.
Historically, it's not a good move.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And I agree with that. I don't know if it's going to make a difference here. You know, one thing that Cody has going for him is his hand speed is absolutely absurd. It's probably the fastest hand speed in all of UFC. I know people started calling him chinny a little bit, but we're talking about who's he been knocked out by, like
Dillashaw and actually Pedro Munoz, and kind of looking back on that.
Big puncher though, man.
He is, but how many knockout wins does Munoz have recently? Anyways, not many, right? So that's kind of where I'm like, is it a case of that? And that was a dangerous fight to take. I don't know why they took that fight at the time, because like Munoz didn't have a lot of name value. He was a ranked opponent. You coming off 2 straight losses to Dillashaw. It's like, what are you thinking? But anyways, that's aside the point. I just think that like France is like a mainstay in the weight class, and you do wonder when you cut that extra weight, is your chin more susceptible? Some fighters, yes, some fighters, no, but that's where I kind of worry a bit. And it's also the damage factor. Like Garbrandt's taken a ton of damage. He's had injuries, he's had COVID.
No doubt.
That's what concerns me a bit against France. That's the only thing I kind of pointed out there.
And this is just like the Poirier Oliveira fight for me. Is like, I do think Cody's going to win, but I also see the value on the France side as well.
Well, I think the public's going to be on Garbrandt for sure overall.
100%,
you know what I mean? Because he's moving down. They're expecting him to, you know, maybe this is the right weight class for him. But, dude, Carl Francis is throwing bombs these days too, though. You know, I mean, if you notice his fights, he's not like holding back. I mean, he's going for the kill. So that could be a dangerous spot, because these guys are going to get in a type of firefight. So both these guys have enough finishing ability, I think, to finish each other. So it is going to be a tricky one. Yeah. I don't see this fight probably hitting the scorecards for sure. So, man, there's a lot of good fights. And this is one that's probably, you know, going under the radar a little bit. Like,
it is.
Said, a lot of people are expecting Garbrandt, you know, to be a real threat in the flyweight division. If he gets his win over Cara France, I think he's legitly on his way, though, right? A couple more fights.
He's going to get a title shot, I think. I don't think it matters. If you're a former champion, that holds a lot of weight. I mean, they were going to give him the title shot right away, remember?
Who's next?
Yeah, that's true.
Who would be after Figueiredo Moreno?
Pantoja has a win over Moreno. That's
true.
Isn't he still hurt?
Yeah, but that's why Moreno and Figueiredo got to fight. I'm sure after that he'll be healthy.
Right. Yeah, that's
and
it.
Asker won against Benavidez, but Asker missed weight, remember? So
bro, they're not gonna listen to me. They're not gonna put that dude in there over Cody Garbrandt. Cody's gonna get a win, and he's gonna get a title shot after.
For sure. Yeah,
he's getting a title
there. Yeah, for sure. So there we go. Any other fights you guys want to talk about, or should we wrap things up so you guys can enjoy your Thanksgiving?
I'll tell you what, here's a sleeper fight. Ige and Emmett coming up. Emmett's making his return, you know what I mean, from the knee injury or whatnot. That's an awesome fight. Again, I know it's not like, you know, a headliner pay-per-view type of fight, but I think that's an intriguing fight because both these guys are so well-rounded. It's going to be a fun fight, right? I mean, there's no chance that that's a dull, boring fight. So I think that's a good fight. There's just a lot of them. O'Malley and Paiva.
That was another line I was looking at. O'Malley, I think -324 right now. The comeback on Paiva. Here's the thing with Paiva, like you can always say he's a flyweight, but he looked pretty good in his last fight. And for O'Malley, like everything's on O'Malley, right? Like this is the guy that we've been hearing for years is the next big thing. And like Paiva, like if he loses this big deal, he goes back to just fighting ranked guys. With O'Malley, there's so much more on the line here. So that's what I'm curious about. I mean, O'Malley could go out there and knock him out, wouldn't surprise me. But still,
Paiva, I'll tell you what, man. I didn't think he won. I don't think he beat Kyler. But he showed that he's at that, and like for me, O'Malley and Kyler are like same. You know what I mean? Like they're not that far off. And what I seen in the O'Malley fight, his last one, he fought the green-haired kid.
Oh, Chris Montinho.
Yeah. He looked like he was slowing down a little bit. You know what I mean? Like I just if once again we talked about like 13 and a half minutes in, is O'Malley somebody you want on your side? I'm like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like he's got to get these guys out of here early. And I don't like his durability, man. And for a guy like Paiva, who he's tough, I could see O'Malley knocking him out in the first round. I could see Paiva hanging around and making it interesting too.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of really interesting fights. By the way, just quickly, you mentioned that Ige and Emmett fight. Emmett's the favorite, which is interesting, and I get it. I would probably pick Emmett as well. But the thing is, Emmett's had those injuries in the layoff, and Emmett's not young, right? I think he's pushing 36 or something. So it's like, it's one of those things you got to factor in. Are we going to see the same Emmett when he comes back? Right? That's another question.
That dude's a monster, man. He's a stone cold killer, bro. Listen, that dude's won me so much money. Great wrestler, great cardio, huge puncher at the division.
Yep.
Yeah. The punching power is what I think will be the difference in that fight. But again, we'll be previewing all that as it comes up here. Gentlemen, I'm not going to keep you much longer. I know there's some turkey waiting for both of you. Before we get out of here, got to remind everyone again, betdsi.eu. Use the promo code UFC. You get a signed James Krause photo. Who doesn't want that? It looks great on your wall.
Get the photos. I got some nice photos. I went 2-0 last week. We're getting free money here.
That's right.
It's like, what do you
Exactly. Easy incentive there. Why not? Listen, it's Thanksgiving. What a better way to give some thanks than getting a James Krause
I'm the
signed
gift
photo
that keeps
there.
on giving.
Exactly. So follow it there. We're going to be back next week previewing the UFC Fight Night card 44, I think. Aldo Font, that's the card we're going to be talking about next week. So we'll have another guest step in for that one. But I want to thank everyone for joining it. Again, from all of us to you, stay safe. Have a great Thanksgiving. Hope you all enjoy time with your family. If you're Canadian like I am, enjoy the break. It's nice to have a fight weekend off every now and then. So for myself, for James Krause, for Nick Kalikas, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you guys next week.